comes our another very wonderful one. I'm very looking forward to it. I just saw the video before this meeting. Okay, and now please help me and welcome tonight's very wonderful, very elegant lady, Karla. And we cannot hear you. Again? We cannot hear you.
I forgot to unclick my. I forgot to unmute. Okay, let me start again.
Okay.
But you see my slides and heard the noise, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Click to start. Okay. We see it.
Are you like that? When you click on something on the website, if there's no response in 1, 2, 3 seconds, you will click again. And if still no response, you probably will click like crazy or close the window. Sometimes 10 seconds is a long time, and you can lose your audience in that 10 seconds if you don't start your speech well. Because we all live in a world that where we are so used to that everything is faster. And this era is also overwhelmed with information. If a Facebook post or a website article could not interest you in the first or second sentence, you probably will just close the window. That's why writers spend a lot of time on their first sentence. So I want you to remember a 10-second rule. Grab their attention in 10 seconds, or you lose them. Well begun is half done. Beginning something well makes it easier to do the rest. This idea is everywhere in our life. We have all kinds of ceremonies about beginning. The wedding, the groundbreaking ceremony, New Year celebration. We take beginnings very seriously. And the same emphasis should be put on our speech opening. However, I don't know how many times I have heard an opening like this. Good evening, I'm Joe. I'm from National Chia-Yi University. And today I'm going to share with you my hobby. At that point, my attention is about to stand up and leave the room. I cannot stop screaming in my head. Stop doing that, you are losing your audience. So how can we grab the attention in the first 10 seconds? First, don't tell your audience something they probably already know. Give them something interesting, something new. It's very likely you will give a speech in one of these scenarios. You give a project speech in Toastmasters meeting. In a business meeting, you pitch an idea, give a proposal, or report your progress. Or in an academic conference, you report your study. Or you are an invited speaker as a keynote in an event. Or like me, what I'm doing now is give an educational workshop. In the scenario 1 and 2, your Toastmaster members and co-workers probably already know who you are, right? And then in number 3, 4, 5 scenarios, your credential is already in the program book. And most of the time, the host will introduce you. So as a speaker, as a mature speaker, your first sentence should not be Good evening, I'm Joe. Give them something interesting. Second, get to the point. In most of the public speaking scenarios, you will need a title for your speech. Your speech actually started with a title. Choose your title carefully. You want your title to be catchy, provoke curiosity, and highlight your main idea. So even before you start to speak, your audience already wants to know what you are going to talk about. And then you deliver a setting that leads to your title or the main idea of your speech. The setting could be anything, a quote, striking statistics, or short stories. I personally like short story at the beginning very much because you never lose audience in stories. They always want to know what happened next. And Doreen just gave us a great example. She used a story to start her speech. Keep those in mind, and I will show you some example later. The third thing we can do to grab the attention at the beginning is to use all the skills you have learned in your Toastmaster meetings. You can use humor, props. You can ask provocative questions, use body language, and rhetorical devices. Rhetorical devices are something like this. He is happy as a dog. Or you describe an object as it's a person. Once you catch your audience attention in the 10 seconds, you can expand your setting that lead to the title, the punchline, or the main idea of your speech. Now, let's first take a look at the two great examples of speech opening. I want you to focus on how the speaker delivered a setting that leads to the title or the main idea, and also which skills they used to catch the attention. Please take a note, and I want feedback after the example. Our first speech happens in 2001, and it's a Toastmaster International Speech Contest champion speech, Ouch, by Darren LaCroix.
Can you remember a moment when a brilliant idea flashed into your head? It was perfect for you. And then all of a sudden, from the depths of your brain...
Excuse me, I need some of you to turn off your mic, so we don't have the feedback.
Tommy,
Tommy, please mute your mic. Yes, thank you.
Brain, another thought started forcing its way forward through the enthusiasm until finally it shouted, "Yeah, great idea, but what if you fall on your face?" What do you do when you fall on your face? Do you try and jump right up and hope no one noticed? Are you more concerned with what other people will think than what you can learn from this? Mr. Contest Chair, friends, and the people way in the back. Ouch!
Okay, now anybody can give me on what skills he used to catch the attention? Anyone can tell me what you observed? Tenson?
body language.
Yes, body language, great body language. What else?
The tone.
The tone, yes.
Yeah.
That's kind of part of the body language. Vocal variety, or we call it. Anything else? I think he also used humor, right? He lied down there while he's saying, "Mr. Contest Chair," and everybody just laughed. And he also asked questions. Have you ever had a thought, great thought? Just right at the beginning, he asked questions. Did he use a rhetorical devices? Did anybody catch that? Okay, when he said that it's a little bit fast, so you probably didn't catch it. What did I do? Okay. It's right here.
Did you feel all of a sudden, from the depths of your brain, another thought started forcing its way forward through the enthusiasm until finally it shouted, "Yeah, great idea!"
Okay, so if you didn't catch what he said from the depths of your brain, another thought started to force its way forward through the enthusiasm until it finally shouted, "Yeah, great idea! What if you fall on your face?" So he described his thought as a person. So that's rhetorical devices. Okay, now let's take a look at another example. This is from 2015 by Mohammad Khatani. That's also a champion speech, The Power of Words.
What? Oh, you all think smoking kills? Let me tell you something. Do you know that the amount of people dying from diabetes are 3 times as many people dying from smoking? Yet if I pulled a Snicker bar, nobody would say anything. Do you know that the leading cause of lung cancer is not actually a cigarette? It's your DNA. You could smoke for years and nothing will ever happen to you. This whole war against smoking is just to restrict the farming of tobacco. Mr. Contest Chair, fellow Toastmasters and guests, I use these arguments, even though I just made them up, with a group of my friends. And the results, 5 of them believed what I said. 2 of them started smoking. Words, when said and articulated in the right way, can change someone's mind. They can alter someone's belief.
Okay, now I will just review the speech again and point out the techniques he used. Props. He used something very unusual. Nobody will expect you see that on the stage, the cigarette and the lighter. And that give really attention-drawing effect.
What?
Look at that body language and people just laugh. He didn't say anything and people just start laughing.
Oh, you all think smoking kills?
Provocative question.
Let me tell you something. Do you know that the amount of people dying from diabetes are 3 times as many people dying from smoking?
Question again.
Yet if I pulled a Snicker bar, nobody would say anything.
And humor. Snicker bar is a very sweet snack.
Do you know that the leading cause of lung cancer is not actually a cigarette? It's your DNA.
Question again. Okay, I'm just gonna jump a little bit further.
Fellow Toastmasters and guests, I use these arguments, even though I just made them up,
Humor again. Did you notice that he had a really long pause after he said something funny? So pause can also be a very strong tool, powerful tool to draw the audience when you're speaking. And he waited for the humor, the effect of humor to grow in the audience. Okay. Let's get back to the speech. You probably think that the techniques used in the speech contest are too dramatic for daily use. But the speech contests are one of the best resources where you can learn all great techniques. Another resource for great speech are TED Talks, where you can still find all the good techniques But tuned down, my opinion is we learn and practice all the techniques in Toastmaster meeting and make each speech like a contest speech, and then tune it down for daily use, because tuning down is always easier than tuning up. By far, you have the basic idea on how to give a great opening. A very organized, well-organized speech also needs the body, your supporting material, and the closing. Just as much as we value openings, we also take closing seriously. We have a graduation ceremony for students, memorial services for people who have died, and a president of a country usually give a farewell speech at the end of his or her term. There are certain, so powerful, a perfect speech cannot be completed without a strong closing. There are certain ways to close a speech, and the purpose of your speech will decide which one to use. Are you speaking to inspire, to persuade people to do something, or to give information like I'm doing now, or to evoke discussion on a certain topic? And there are some techniques, some ways to do the closing. The first one is callback. Callback is a term from comedy. In comedy, a callback is a joke that refers to another joke previously told in a set. So in our speech, callback is you mention something that you mentioned before. It can be a joke, can be a punchline, can be your main idea. And let's see an example. We will watch the same speech from Darren, and we'll watch his ending. So he gives some example, personal stories to tell you, to encourage you to try new things. Don't be afraid of failing. And then at the end of the speech,
we're all going to move forward and try and reach a point, but we're going to reach a point headed to our goals where we get stuck and we can't move. But we're so afraid of that ouch, we forget that if we lean forward and take a risk and fall on our face, we still made progress. Go ahead and fall forward.
Isn't that great? I just love this kind of closing. He fell again, just like he did at the beginning, and that's a callback. And this time he mentioned even you fall, you still made progress. So it's a callback, but also have more meanings. And a callback, you can use this technique not only in the closing, you can also use it in your speech, and that will give you a really good structure. Another way to do closing is call for action. If your speech purpose is to encourage us, persuade people to do something, you want to try call for action at the end. And Darren, in his speech, he just gave that example. His last sentence was, go ahead, fall forward. And he said with such power, make a really strong closing. And people after his whole speech will want to try something they have been wanting to try for a long time and without afraid of failing. Another example, just do it. Or let's all be the change that we want to see in the world. This is actually a quote, come from a quote, but it's also a type of call for action. If the purpose of a speech is to give information, like what I'm doing now, a simple summary will help your audience to remember the take-home messages. We see this very often in academic conference. One tip for this kind of closing is you can add a little humor in it. I have seen people give summary, list the first main finding, second finding, third finding, and in the fourth finding, they sneak in some joke. And that's a great way. Humor is always appreciated. And if your speech is on a controversial topic, leave something for the audience to think. It's probably the best way to end. Could be questions or a quote, which will help evoke further discussion or make the audience think more from different perspectives. And that will make your speech stay longer with your audience. Oh, forgot. And the example is, I watched this program. It's called Today, 看世界, the world today. The host always give a short review, like 6 minutes review on current news. And because what happened in the news usually is not pure white or black. People always have different opinion on a certain event. So at the end of her review, she always asks the audience some questions and from different perspectives and ask them to give feedback to her. I will not play the example here now, but you can Google one and try to watch it. Okay, today we have learned how to give a strong opening. Remember the 10 seconds rule. Don't tell your audience something they already know. Give them something interesting, something new. Get to the point at the beginning and use all the techniques you have learned in Toastmaster. And for your closing, how you close it, match your speech purpose. You can use callback, you can call for action, you can give a summary, or you can leave the audience something to think about. I hope you have learned something from my speech today. And knowing is not simply enough for really master it. I want you to go back to write a speech. Use all the